everybody. Welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on DSM Media. Hold on. All right. That didn't really make as big of a loud sound. Cheers. It's time to get I'm your host, Phil Stifle, here at Fairway to Heaven. I am joined tonight, coming back for a second episode this season, my main man, Chris Uzuzian, at Chris Ebom, risingfirebets.com. Man, putting in a lot of the work over there. Chris, good evening. How are you today?
I'm great, man. I'm excited. It's going to be an awesome tournament. A little different than what we're used to with the Wells Fargo, but I think it's going to be challenging. I think it's going to be tough. And I think the green's going to be tough too. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I always like these kind of tournaments that aren't huge birdie fests. I know like the person that doesn't really watch golf a whole lot, they want to see birdies left and right, but I kind of like the challenges and stuff and getting those pars, especially some of these par threes are going to be tough, but it's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. It's the Wells Fargo Championship, guys. Like he said, normally at Quail Hollow. I'm sure nobody has heard anybody say that yet this week. That it's not at Quail Hollow.
It might be the first.
I think this might be the first time we've heard anybody say that. TPC Potomac, Potomac?
Yeah.
Am I saying it right? I don't know.
Yep,
I get names all the time. It's actually not far from me. It's like 2 hours south of me where I'm situated. And out to dinner on Sunday night, we were talking. Hey, well, I think it'd be a good family trip on Mother's Day, wouldn't it? Go down and see the final round of the Wells Fargo. I didn't get a really good response on that though. Mother's Day.
I mean that's kind of a tough pool for the ladies' weekend for the most part. But I'm going to be doing yard work for my wife and everything, so and try to keep the kids away from her as far as possible while watching the Wells Fargo. I'm going to be multitasking like crazy.
Oh man! All right, so real quick, you say it could be hard course, maybe a little lower scoring than normal. So this course, this TPC Potomac course here down in the DC area, did host the Quicken Loans twice, 17 and 18, with two completely different type of results. Kyle Stanley won it in 17, at -7. Francisco Molinari won it in 18 at -21. So we have some kind of information, but also a little bit of, conflicting information too. But I get what you're saying. It's going to be a super tough course this week. Not overly long, under 7,200 yards, par 70. You started a new thing this week where you wrote like a course hole by hole article over on. Let me get your thing back up there. risingfirebets.com. Immense amount of work you put into it, so I really appreciate it. And I was kind of getting a feeling before I read your article about how I felt this course would play. Then reading that hole by hole description, two words popped into my head by reading your hole by hole description: conservative and patience. And that's what golfers need to have this week, is a little bit of patience, because you don't want to be out there hitting 320-yard drives off the tee and spraying it all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that's mostly the theme here. There are a couple holes where you can kind of take advantage of the driver a little bit with distance. It's not like, it's like 90% about being accurate, short, clubbing down, if you will, 200 some yard drives, because the fairway ends and then, everyone's gonna be hitting from 200 plus. I mean, these par fives, they're huge. You're not going to see eagles here. I'm sorry. You're going to be getting like 300-yard approach shots, which actually brings up a good point that you're going to need to be able to hit really good with the wedges, 75 to 100 yards as well, because a lot of guys are going to be that close as well. So it's not just the long irons. It's also those really short irons. That's why the approach game is so important here this week.
Yeah, I mean, when I was building my model this week, I put literally, let me double check here the exact number here, 20, 30. I put 45% of my model into approach and driving accuracy. That's pretty much where I was at, and it's kind of completely different from last week, where last week you could just hit the ball wherever you want, spray it wherever you want, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to be in a pretty fair, okay spot, for your second shot. You say those, I didn't even think about the 75 to 100 range. I was looking at that 175 to 200 range, that 200 plus range a lot. I didn't even think about that. And that makes a really excellent point there on that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, the long irons are going to be important at the end of the day, but like those par fives, they're just not going to reach. So you're going to have a really close chip shots in and everything. And there's also something else I think is going to be important here. It's sand saves gained. There's tons of bunkers here. There are some bunkers that are kind of placed just around that people shouldn't really hit, but there's a good amount of them around those greens, especially on those longer holes if guys are going to try and go for it.
When I was reading your article, there was one par 3 that you said that the back bunkers were going to be, in play all weekend long, but yet also if they end up in the back bunker, it's a really difficult spot to come out of it all. forget which hole it was, but yeah, I mean, definitely sand saves will come into play. I sometimes when I'm doing my research, there's certain stats I don't wait because I know you're not a total model person. You look at all the stats and all.
Mhm.
There's certain stats, and sand saves is one I never really put it in my model, but I always put it off to the side. So because you could put it with 0% in your model, so it's not weighted, but you
Right.
can still see all the stats, and that's one of those categories. I always keep a little side eye on sand saves because it could definitely be the difference. We've seen Victor Hovland, he just around the green and in the sand, many of times struggle, it's still contend, but definitely play a factor in his finishing position a few times.
No, definitely. I mean, his chipping game has been known as his weakest part of his game, but it's good about these sand saves and everything. These greens are going to be sloping a lot. So they're going to be pretty much, you're going to have to really be good at lag putting here. I haven't been able to find a lot of good stats with lag putting this week, especially these greens should be running pretty fast. But when you're going to be in these bunkers anyway near the green, you're going to have to hit it so short that it's going to be rolling down because they're going to be rolling away into the fairway a lot of the time. So they're going to be really tricky. So if they're stuck in those bunkers around the green, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah. So you say it's going to be difficult. We keep using that word difficult. Before we get into this week's event, I want to ask you a question because we're going to break down the price tiers. We're going to break down the odds of these golfers and stuff like that. Guys we like this week, to use your term, rise and fire with this week.
Absolutely.
But I was thinking about it on Sunday night, and I was thinking about it yesterday when I was writing my article, which is linked in the bio and stuff.
Mhm.
How difficult fantasy and gambling on golf is. It is such a grind. Last week, I literally nailed almost every single one of the top 10 guys. Now, I don't bet a lot. I'm more focused on the daily fantasy. I place a few outright bets every week. When I'm feeling, a little frisky, I'll throw a couple first round leaders, a couple top 10 bets, things like that out there. But it doesn't matter. So sometimes your process, like I've had a very winning, very profitable season so far. And I want to talk about the fact that, if somebody's just getting started in this, this sport for fantasy and gambling, people that do football normally or basketball, if you have a winning system, maybe don't take a 1 or 2 losing weeks. You're going to have some down stretches. Don't get away from your system. Because last week, I had Tony Finau. I had, Cam Champ. That was my number one play. And I would make that number one play on Cam Champ every single week if the numbers told me to do it. Literally, just go up and down. I had Aaron Rye. I had Smalley. I had Wise. I had all these guys on my board. And I had some money spent on all these guys. And I literally had my worst week of the season. I lost about 70% of my investment last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think the best advice, like if you're looking to bet DFS right off the bat, and you don't want to stress or anything, I highly recommend not even looking at your lineup. If you have the whole week lineup, don't even look at it till Saturday, honestly, because I fall into that a lot. I'm watching, I'm like, oh man, I'm already cashing all this stuff on Thursday and everything's great. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And it just goes, whoop, and then hopefully it goes up. But if I recommend anything, just don't even look at your lineup the first 2 days because anything could happen. Look at Tony Finau. He was down in the dumps and then he ended up coming up to the top and he ended up actually helping me cash a little bit on my one lineup. I had a bad week too last week, but it was just,
it doesn't matter how good your system is. Sometimes
it happens.
It just happens. And don't get frustrated. Literally, we're going to get Tony Finau is one of the first 2 names I want to talk about this week. So that's a good transition in a second. Sometimes in fantasy aspect of it, you have 10, I do 20 to 22 lineups. So I have a bigger player pool than people that, do 3 or 4 or 5 lineups. But, if you have a great group of guys, you just might pair the wrong ones together.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. So just don't get down on your system because fantasy golf, it is hard.
It's a grind.
It is a really, really hard grind to do. So I just like to talk about that because people get so easily down and change. And I know when I first started doing this 2 years ago, I would change my philosophy every other week. And no. If the system works, stick to it because sometimes week like that, people might look at me and be like, oh, I followed everything that you said to do last week and I lost money. I'm like, well, I lost that money too. Now, it's not just like I'm telling you one thing, I'm doing something totally different. Yeah, it's a tough thing to crack, and you can't get down after one bad week.
Yeah, there's a lot of bumps in the road with daily fantasy, no matter what sport you play. Twitter kind of is the worst example of it because people only post winners and people just see the big banks and everything.
every
What,
week.
what was that?
I post my losers every single week.
Hey man, I think it's transparent. I think it's a good thing because I mean we put the work in, and sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. Like I haven't had huge big winning weeks, but I've had like some consistently decent weeks, and then I've had some bad weeks. It just happens. But I think it's important that there is some losing involved in it. But just stick with it and just stick to a plan. I like that as well. If you think the formula is working, you should still stick with it regardless.
I agree 100% with you right there. What's up, JC? How you doing, my friend? Thanks for checking in. We got some good betting and fantasy knowledge on golf here this week for you there, JC. So let's start at the top of the board this week for the Wells Fargo. I think it's a really interesting top 5. There's 5 guys in that top 10K and above. Rory McIlroy, Tony Finau, Abraham Ancer, Corey Connors, and Matthew Fitzpatrick. I think there's a lot of interesting things. We'll get to Rory in a second. But Tony Finau, I want to know your thoughts on Tony Finau this week because I kind of felt like last week, I know he finished, what was it, second or third? T2, T3?
T2.
Yeah,
yep.
T2. I think it was a very, how do I say this? A very, it doesn't paint the whole picture. I don't think Tony Finau played as great as his finishing position says he did. And I think he got a price bump this week because of that. And I'm not sure if he's the kind of guy on a very narrow, accurate, accuracy type course like this, that's somebody that people should be looking. And I think people are going to zone in on him because of that T2, and they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. Tony Finau, his driving accuracy, hitting fairways, has been absolutely terrible in his last 50 rounds. One of the worst in the field actually this week. It's kind of a fool's gold, if you will. I mean, he can get streaky, and he is pretty good with those short irons and long irons. So I kind of see where people are going with it. I mean, I've always been a sucker for Tony Finau for the most part. Back with my old show, Rise and Fire, with my buddy Bill, we used to always we'd be always talking great about Tony Finau. We just never hit with him, but it was, I mean, he got hot at the end. That's the thing. But that driving accuracy is going to be a problem. We'll see. But I'm personally going to be fading him for the most part for DFS.
Yeah, I'm 100% staying away from him. There's all these names are good plays this week too. I mean, you could say that you like Tony Finau and give me a reason, and I'd be like, all right, whatever, I can get behind it. I think actually it's crazy to say this. Very rarely do I ever say this. I think Rory McIlroy is the highest priced guy in this range, is the best play at 11.5, because I think with this weaker field, and I said the same thing last week with John Rahm in a weaker field. I think John Rahm was only 11.3 last week. These guys could have easily been priced. Rory McIlroy this week, John Rahm last week, 12.2, 12.4, and you would have still seen people play him. Problem is, at 11.5, 11.3, what was John Rahm last week? Like 38, 39% owned?
Yeah, he was about like 40% owned.
Yeah, he's right around there. I don't think you're going to see that much with Rory McIlroy this week. But, man, I'm having a really hard time convincing myself not to play Rory McIlroy this week.
I mean, personally myself, I think I'm going to fade him this week. And the reason for that is, we all know he's really good. His approach play is starting to come around. We know how good he is off the tee. I mean, he kills the ball, but I mean, there's going to be points where he's going to be able to take advantage of those. There's about 2 or 3 holes where driving distance will help a lot. But besides that, it won't be for the most part. His sand saves gained isn't really that good. If he's bombing it, which I think he's going to be bombing it, he's probably going to hit a lot of bunkers. And I know he hit that one with Rory and everything over at the Masters. They had their fun. I think people are going to remember that. But I believe he's still ranked 68th in the field as far as sand saves gained in the last 50 rounds. So I'm personally not going to play him either. I actually like Matt Fitzpatrick this week. He's going to be, right now I'm looking at it, 12.5% owned. I like Corey Connors as well, but he's going to be pretty chalky too. But Matt Fitzpatrick is just the better putting version of Corey Connors. I feel like he's got the distance. The long irons are there. His GIRs are really good as well. I just want to bring up a couple things with him as well. Let me see real quick. So his GIRs are really good. And let's see. He's 6 in sand saves gained in 50 rounds, 19 in good drives, 25th fairways gained. His scrambling is decent as well. So I like that combination of numbers for him, and we know he can get his birdies. Eagles won't be coming around here often, but I like Matty Fitz this week. I'm going to be playing him.
Yeah, I love Fitzpatrick this week. I think he's a great play. I actually have him, Fantasy National, who's partner with the show here. They got Matthew Fitzpatrick right now, and I just refreshed it as you were talking there. So Up to this moment, he's projected at 16.4% ownership, Matthew Fitzpatrick. Corey Connors, on the other hand, 22.4%. And
I
right
have
now,
about the same numbers too.
yeah, Corey Connors is going to be the highest owned golfer in this field, at least throughout most events and stuff like that. So while I love Corey Connors, I know his odds are kind of low. Like they're not like 20 or 30 to 1 odds to win. I think out of this top 5 guys, Corey Connors might have the best chance of winning this event. But in a fantasy, I still like the 13% ownership projection on Rory. I even don't have an issue if you want to say Abraham Answer turns it around this week at 10% ownership. But, the safest play, definitely Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I think so. He still hasn't got that win yet. I think he's definitely like a top 20 play at least. I haven't really even released my betting plays yet. I'm probably going to do it after the show, give or take. And then my DFS plays as well. I'm probably going to just release them on Twitter since I did my big write-up with the other thing. But Abe Answer is a good switch too, because he fits the mold, like the RBC Heritage where he plays well at. It's like it's thin fairways, tree lined, short course. That's Abraham Answer, right? That's his DNA. So if he looks like he's going to be about 10% owned at this point, we'll see what happens. I think he's a good spot as well. But those are kind of the 3 I'm looking at: Abe Answer, Corey Connors, Matt Fitzpatrick. But
I'm getting off of Abraham Answer because he's obviously disappointed this year. There's no doubt about it. But if he's going to get him, he's made a few cuts out of his last couple of events. He's not trending in a great direction.
No.
But if there's going to be, this is not a Pete Dye course, but it's a Pete Dye redesign. So it has a little bit of that Pete Dye, feel to it. The weather might be a little cooler. There might be some wind and rain this weekend. Things that all trend. So if you're looking in that top 10K range, you can make an argument that Abraham Answer might be a fair play. But I'll still say the safest play is the 10K Matthew Fitzpatrick. He might not win, but he's definitely going to finish in the top 20.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he's got a shot this week, but I'm definitely playing him. So I'm ready to roll with Matty Fitz.
So, you talk about Matthew Fitzpatrick and how safe almost to an extent that he is a 10K. Then you go down $100 to $9,900 Tyrell Hatton. And I've heard a lot of people talking and pumping him up this week. But he's like such a volatile golfer that I've already written him completely off my board. I didn't even have him on my board. Then I heard 2 other people that I respect more than I respect myself, and they're both all over Tyler Hatton. So I put his name back on my board as a potential play. He's got some top 20s. He's got some, top 25s. But then we also see him just completely blow up. So, do you drop down? And I'm looking at ownership here. Matthew Fitzpatrick, 16%. You go down $100 to Tyrell Hatton. He's only at 8% right now. It's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. He's just one of those guys that just don't get right for the most part. He's got the good long iron play. He can putt it real well. I cannot blame you for taking him at all. I actually really like Mark Leishman this week. Right. I think he's got a good shot to win it. If you look at what he's done of late, he's 11th in strokes gained total in the last 50 rounds. He's just been really solid with the approach play. The putter's been solid. But what I really like too, in courses with narrow fairways that are difficult scoring, and really short yardage courses, he ranks 5th in the last 50 rounds played in strokes gained total, 5th with approach, tee to green 5th. And he's already playing really good golf already. So he's already been in great form. And being able to be on a course that kind of suits his style, I really like Mark Leishman in the spot. He's my favorite by far.
Yeah, see the thing is, so as I get later in the season, I kind of tweak it. Early in the season, I just do my model, okay? 36 rounds, 50 rounds, whatever it is. As we get longer into the season, and on courses like this with not a lot of super deep history, last week, no history with the Mexico Open. This year, we're looking at a few years ago for a different event on this course. So what I have is I've got the last 36 rounds. I also have the last 12 rounds because I want to see just overall recent form. Yeah. Mark Leishman rated out as where am I here? That's Fitzpatrick, 22nd in my model over the last 36 rounds. Great approach, great toe. All the same categories that you said.
Yeah.
But over the last 12 rounds, he falls all the way down to 56 in my model.
Okay.
Which is telling me that maybe he's trending on in the wrong direction a little bit. I don't know. We haven't really seen him since the Masters, have we? I don't have any data since the Masters on him.
Yeah, I think that's probably where we last saw him. I think he probably played the Zurich because he usually plays that. But Yeah, I mean, he's just been pretty good all year. I mean, if you're looking at what he did for the last 36 rounds, it's been better than the numbers that I even had with the approach game. He's just been, I don't know. I just think he's just been playing well enough this year, and I think he could find his first win here.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see. I like it though. So you like Leishman? I'm looking at a couple other names. You know, I mean, it's not a deep range. There's not a lot of names here. Keegan Bradley and Russell Henley, both are going to be highly owned. 15, almost 16% for Bradley. Russell Henley is getting close to 18% now. Russell Henley, I think, can win this event. Keegan Bradley, though, betting wise, you know, I got him at 28-1 earlier this week. If Keegan Bradley is part of that, you know, if he could just putt a little bit, Keegan Bradley's going to win an event this year. I don't know how you feel about Keegan and Russell Henley.
Well, Jeff, who I had on Sell Me Fire for the first episode, his play was Russell Henley to win. He had a lot of really good arguments for him. I'm tailing with him as well. He was first in approach in the field, which is going to be huge here. Still hasn't won like in recent time for the most part. I mean, he's been playing for a while. Keegan Bradley is pretty much your poor man's Corey Connors at this point. You know, Corey Connors has been getting all the glory. If you like Corey Connors and you don't want to pay that price for Corey Connors, Keegan Bradley is the guy with the value. So I feel like he's kind of the poor Corey Connors, if you will. But you know, he's accurate off the tee, good with the irons. We talked about the putting sucks. But it's going to be tough to putt here anyway. It's just going to be a matter of 3-putt avoidance for him for the most part. So we know he's going to get his GIRs. I mean, he's been pretty solid with those for the most part. But I don't mind that Keegan Bradley play. I like Russell Henley too. I think he'd probably win this thing as well. I'm going to play him top 20. I got him at plus 170. So that's going to be on my betting card as well. That's going to come out later. I've been working with that all day. So, yeah, I'm all for those guys.
Really weird because two guys that statistically speaking to me, I just don't like Hatton and Leishman as much this week. But they're at 7 and 8% owned, and Bradley, Henley, and even I can even throw Gary Woodland. I think Gary Woodland is as close to being back as he's going to ever be.
Right.
You know, these guys are ranging from Woodland at 14% to almost 18% for Russell Henley. It's do you get enough value from Bradley, Henley, and even Woodland at those high ownerships at that high price? And that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, those prices, you know, when you have a weaker field, we got, 15 of the top 50 golfers in the world only here. So you get a little sticker shock with some of these guys. I find that you sometimes got to take I sometimes avoid ownership percentages, but on events like this with weaker fields, you kind of definitely got to zone in on them because, you know, do you get enough return on your investment at 18% on one of these guys that, I mean, what's their upside to their downside and stuff like that?
No, I hear you. I mean, I remember just watching a Joe Iadone show, you know, at Tour Picks, and he's a guy that really does not believe in percentages. He just plays who he thinks is going to be good, and that's it. And I mean, that does work, I guess. I mean, it all depends what you want to do. I mean, I feel like you have to look at some sort of percentages. I actually didn't even know Leishman was going to be that low owned. Either I'm going to be the smartest man in the room or just some dummy for the most part with Leishman.
I got it right now as of the show, 7.1% projection.
Yeah, I got him a 6.9. So, I mean, it's right there. We're both in the same ballpark. I'm going to play him because I already really like him. I'm putting him on my outright anyway. So I can see myself playing Matty Fitz, and then I'm going to play Leishman. That's just going to start my card right there. And it's going to get that ownership alone. I mean, that's pretty juicy.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm going to I'm going to play a little bit of the 10 and the 9K. I'll have a couple guys on my pool, but they're going to get minimal clicks. They're going to get minimal usage. Even the 8K is what we're going to get in the 7K in a second. I love the 7K. There's a lot of names that I love in the 7K, but there's a very small 8K range again. Again, guys in this range that sticker shock to an extent, and the ones I like the most are the two highest, you know, projected ownership guys in Max Homa and Cam Young. Cam Young is going to win an event this year. I think he's already got Rookie of the Year locked up, in my opinion. Is this the weekend? Do you take that chance at 8K? And I got him right now listed at 16.3% owned. I have to play Cam Young. I feel like I have no choice but to.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of guys are talking about Cam Young this week. I personally am not seeing it per se. I can see him doing really well first round. Like if you want to play him for like first round leader, I think that's a really good spot for him. But I mean, he's a big bomber as well. So I think I don't know, it's gonna be a tough course. It's gonna be really difficult. I'm not sure if he's gonna be there for it. I think All right, so I know Paul Casey's burned people like every week because of his injuries and this and that. And I think if you want to be like super like, like get like a different kind of feel, like you need to help your card out. Let's say you're like playing Rory or you're playing Corey Connors or like one of those guys that's really highly owned, like Russell Henley. I wouldn't be like maybe you should play some Paul Casey. I mean, like he does. His ball striking is very good. I know he's burned a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to remember that. I mean, if he wasn't burning people here, he'd be like 16% owned, and he's only looking at like 6.6. I mean, I think it's a good flex spot, honestly, for him because I think there's a lot of hate that goes on with Paul Casey, and you might be able to cash in this week with him.
I think basically everything you say there, except for the injury part, Paul Casey and Sergio Garcia. These kind of coaches are good. They're smart players. You kind of got to be smart. Pick your spots to be conservative and shoot for par. Pick that one random spot to take that birdie opportunity. Mm-hmm. It is. I don't know how much it's going to play like a Pete Dye design course. I mean, I know he helped redesign the course, but the weather, they're both guys that play really well in iffy weather. I have Casey, Sergio, Young, and Homa all written down in this range. In my potential, because I don't finalize my pool till tomorrow, but I got all 4 of them listed in my potential pool. I mean, that's 4 of the 6 names in the range, but I'm really trimming it down a lot there.
No, but I mean, I like Homa here as well. I think he's been playing really well. But I mean, you're going pretty much Paul Casey and Sergio with like team no putt. They're team tee to green, but they're no putt. So I mean, like that's what you're looking at. If I'm taking somebody from the 8K range, I'll be honest with you. I actually kind of like Webb Simpson this week.
Okay.
He's a guy that is not going to be owned that much. He was starting to play a little bit better. I mean, this is kind of like a field like an RBC Heritage. That's going to be narrow fairways, and it's just you have to be precise. This fits Webb Simpson's game in this course very well. So he's a guy I'm actually targeting him in a matchup play this week. I like him over Matt Jones. He's minus 142. It's a big number, but I absolutely love it because I think Matt Jones is going to miss the cut anyway. So I think it can be cashed in by Friday. So I like Webb Simpson here. He's definitely going to find my way into the betting card. So if I'm going the 8K range, I might actually start with Webb Simpson.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair enough. Let's get into the 7K range then, because like I said, I really like this 7K range a lot. There are so many names that they do something for me. They jump off the page in 2 or more categories and everything. I mean, we could talk Aaron Rye. We could talk Keith Mitchell. Johnny Vegas, who, let me just say to everybody that read my article, yes, I put him as withdrawn from the event in the article. I have no idea where I saw it. I think I was on Draftkings. They released the pricings and had not pulled his out from the last time he withdrew off. So I saw it and I typed Johnny Vegas out, and I never went back to edit it because I like to admit my mistakes. I jumped the gun on my article. Johnny Vegas is in the field, guys. Don't call me out for that one. It is there. So you can play Johnny Vegas, Doug Gim, I like Streelman, Matt Neesmith. I'm always a Matt Neesmith guy. Joel Damon, Brandon Wu is playing fantastic golf. We all saw him last week, but actually his last 3 or 4 events, he's actually played really well. And let's just looking at the top half, of this grouping here. Thoughts on maybe, your favorite out of that top half group there?
Out of the 7K range?
Yeah, the upper half of the 7K.
Oh, well, if you're going the upper half of the 7K range, I'm going one of the more expensive. I'm going Matt Kuchar this week. Matt Kuchar is a guy that is very precise. He loves these shorter courses. He hits fairways. He's very good with the short irons, gets a good amount of GIRs. He's a very good putter. This isn't one of his best surfaces, Ben Crass, but he's a veteran that can putt very well, especially lag putting. I mean, just from the eye test that I've watched on TV, I feel like he gets a very good read on greens. I think Matt Kuchar's got a real good shot. He's going to be all over my board this week. I like him top 40, even money a lot. I love him first round leader. He's at 60-1, I believe, for first round leader. And I'm actually going to be playing him for top 20 after first round on bet. What is it called? Bet whatever that site's called. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's that one. It's only in Jersey. It's the green one. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they have the top 20s after first round. And I think he's got a shot to win this too. On top of it, so
I absolutely love that.
I like his spot there.
Probably in the top half of the 7K range, especially Cam. So we talk about Cam Young, and like I said, I still like Cam Young, but is it 16.3% at 8K? You go down to 7,900. Matt Kuchar, I got him at 7.6% right now. And I mean, he models out decently in my long-term model. But if you just look at the last 12 rounds he played, he's number one compared to the field in shots gained total, number one shots gained putting, ninth in bogey avoidance. He's actually fourth in that longer par 4 proximity, 450 to 500. And he's actually, and this one's really surprising, he's third in DraftKings points over his last 12 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a lot of birdies. I mean, he can score with the best of them. I mean, that's what he does. But if I'm looking for a bomber, like if I'm really going to like go for the whole bomber scene this week, I like Keith Mitchell this week. His approach play hasn't been the best of late, but I'll tell you what, in the kind of course fit this is, the narrow fairways, shorter course, Keith Mitchell in his last 29 rounds, he ranked second off the tee, 16th tee to green, 12th strokes gained total in the entire field here in this kind of like scenario for the course. So if you're looking for a guy that can kind of cut up the course a little bit with the driver and in some points, I think Keith Mitchell is that guy.
One other name I want to get your thoughts on, because I've fallen in love with him this season. I think he's a great golfer. I mean, he's not perfectly consistent yet. He still misses some cuts occasionally. But Matt Neesmith, 12th at RBC, 3rd at the Valspar, 25th at the Honda. But then he missed the cut. The players, I mean, it could have been just the draw. You know, Valero, he missed the cut. Still gained strokes off the tee, even though he missed the cut to Valero. I'm a fan of Matt Neesmith. I'm just a fan of him. I don't know if he's a good fit this week. It's just every single week he's in the field, I seem to find myself playing him because I don't think he's getting a price hike for the quality golf he's putting out there.
Yeah, I mean, he's been kind of a middle of the road kind of guy for the most part. If you're looking at some stuff that he does really well, GIR's gained. He's very good, so he's going to get really good scoring opportunities that way. His sand save gained is really bad, so if he does not hit those greens, it's going to be a feast or famine kind of thing. So I think it's kind of you're either going to get a Jekyll or Hyde with him for the most part, but he has hit his fair share of fairways and been able to get out of trouble with his bad drives as well. So he might be able to work his way around the course. So, I mean, I don't hate the play at all personally, but I don't know. He hasn't really made my card this week as far as DraftKings and everything. What's his percentage right now?
When I went and looked at the odds and I saw him at 100 to 1, I love I have 328 to 1 outright bets. But when I saw 100 to 1 on Matt Neesmith, it was an instant ad for me because I don't know if he's going to win, but at 100 to 1, I think you're getting a great great return in value there for a guy that I think should be more in that 50 to 60 to 1 range. I think he should be 8K, 8,100 on DraftKings with this field. I just think that his numbers are way too cheap this week.
Well, he was 12th at RBC Heritage as well. So, I mean, that's a good sign as well because it's going to be that kind of like course, like not exactly, but I mean, narrow fairways, precision play. He was 12th there this year at RBC Heritage. So, yeah, it might be a good spot there. You might open my eyes up to him a little bit this week.
I'm a fan there. All right, so I want to talk about the guy that finished, I think he was, T2 last week. Brandon Wu. I know he missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of 12 cuts. But since then, he's gone 3rd, 33rd, 28th, and 2nd. So I look at his short-term stats, just over like the last 12 rounds, and the guy's playing great golf. Can it be that he just finally figured it out on tour?
He's a good little stretch. I mean, you're looking at a couple things here. Puerto Rico Open, he was 3rd. 33rd Valspar, not too bad for him. 28th Punta Cana. These are also kind of lower events over here for the most part. So he hasn't been in like these kind of fields with a little bit better golfers. I mean, he did play well last week, but that was also a really weak field. The putter has been really good for him, kind of scary good. He almost had 6 strokes gained putting. 4 strokes gained putting. Will he be able to maintain that? I'm not sure. If that putter starts to fall off, there might be some issues there. But he's been in pretty decent recent form. I'm just personally staying away from him because I think he's going to be kind of chalky this week.
And that's what I thought. And then, I mean, again, these ownership percentages, it's only Tuesday night. These are bound to go up. Fantasy National's got him only at 5.7% right now. And
I'm looking at 6 right now, yeah.
I've looked at, these Fantasy National things. I track them Tuesday night for the show, and then Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night when I start filling out my lineups, I keep refreshing them constantly, and I see by Wednesday night on the smart plays, you see about a 2 to 5% increase potentially on some of these guys. So he's definitely someone to watch the ownership, but I don't know. He's playing confident golf. I kind of like him. Any other names down here at the bottom half of the 7K that you like?
Let's see here. So if I'm looking at a couple guys here, Aaron Rye's been pretty decent with the irons for the most part. If I'm going down lower over here, it's kind of a sneaky play. Hear me out. Stuart Sink, 7,200. Okay. He's going to be barely owned here. A guy that's played really good at RBC Heritage. I'm kind of just going with course fit at this point. He's always been pretty good with these narrow fairways, just working his way around the course, very patient. It's that kind of old guy feel for the most part. I kind of like Stuart Sink here as a sneaky play. He's going to be in a couple of my lineups as well. Bo Hostler is kind of a guy that's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde. He's kind of crazy. I don't know if my heart can take him this week because he's such a roller coaster ride, but I do like him first round leader 100-1. He's a guy that gets hot real early, and he's a hell of a putter, especially on these fast bent grass greens. So if he's hitting fairways and getting GIRs, 100-1 is outrageous for a first round leader. So I will be playing that. But that's kind of the two guys I'm looking at.
I want to agree with you on the Stuart Sink one so bad. I enjoyed his run last year so much. The old time feel. I don't know if he still. I think he had his son on his bag all last year. I wanted to.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I wanted to cheer Stuart Sink on all this year too. I don't know.
It's kind of contrarian play. I mean, he hasn't been playing that well. I'm really just going with a course fit and a gut feeling here, honestly. And those kind of things, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But I'm going to be playing Stuart Sink because I think it's going to be a really good leverage point. So I'm going to roll with him.
No, I mean, that's fair enough. I'm going to throw some other names. A guy that most people do their models with longer term things. 42nd in my model, but number 2 in my model, if I do it over just the last 12 rounds, is Adam Long at 7,400. Just looking at his last 12 rounds, second good drives, first fairways gained, 6th bogey avoidance, 10th off the tee, 19th in that proximity, 25th in the longer par fours. Short term, he's been playing really good golf. 15th in Mexico Open, 12th at RBC, comparable type of tougher event. 12th at RBC is a really good finish. 35th at Valero. He made the cut at the Players. I mean, I won't really care about his finishing place. He just made the cut. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. The only thing that concerns me there, his approach play is a question mark sometimes. Even with a 12th place finish at the RBC, he lost strokes on approach. So I don't know. Adam Long's a name I'm looking at here. Lahiri, Mark Hubbard. Always love Mark Hubbard, especially when he's nice and cheap. I think that's about where I'm at. Maybe Russell Knox. I wrote him down. I haven't started him or double checked him. I know he missed the cut and killed a lot of people last week. Mm-hmm. You might be able to get a decent cheap discount on Russell Knox this week. Just some other names to throw at you. I don't know if any of them jump out at you.
Well, Adam Long's pretty interesting. He obviously, which is funny, he doesn't really have much distance off the tee, but he hits a lot of fairways, which you're going to need to do. So that's going to help. That might be a decent play there for the most part. If I'm looking at the rest of the 7K here, Doc Redman's been playing really well of late. He's a guy that's just a ball striker, hitting fairways, good iron play. The putter kind of sucks, but another guy, Martin Laird, he's been really good with the accuracy off the tee, good with the iron. So Martin Laird's done well for me in the betting card this year. I've been playing him in a lot of top 40s. He's been pretty much a cash cow on that part for the most part. So those are kind of guys that I'm liking for the most part. And honestly, even if Matt Wolff was probably 4K, I still wouldn't pay for him.
I saw my man who posted a picture of their card with Matt Wolff in it. I forget who did on Twitter.
Oh,
yeah. Was it Sia Najad? I think it might have been Sia. And somebody posted, I'm like, dude, I don't care what you tell me his price is. I ain't playing him. So I guess there's somebody else with the name Wolf on the card.
Oh, Jared Wolf.
Jared Wolf at 6,100. I'm like, dude, I don't know who Jared Wolf is, but I like Jared Wolf more. He actually made the cut of Valero. Maybe I'll throw Jared Wolf in there. I don't know. Dude, I will never play Matt Wolff again. Never.
Nah, you just can't. I mean, especially at a course where you need to be accurate off the tee. It's just, I mean, he just bombs it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you one here. Who would you feel? Who is the easier person to fade at this point? Matt Wolf or Ricky Fowler?
Oh, Matt Wolf, definitely. Not even a question.
I'm
Ricky
still not
Fowler
picking Ricky Fowler.
Ricky Fowler showed a little bit of glimpses of playing well. Matt Wolf has not at all. I mean, there's been some rounds where Ricky Fowler looked actually okay and like kind of with it. Matt Wolf has just been bad and just breaking clubs, and it's just been really ugly scene.
I mean, I'm not a professional golfer, and obviously, I have a terrible swing. I now at this point in my life still I struggle to break 100. Um, but even I know that swing is off on Matt Wolf. That hitch in his swing, I just don't. I don't understand how no one's gotten in his ear and said, "Dude, you got to change that up a little bit." I know he's a young kid and maybe he doesn't want to, but man, there's something wrong with that swing.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of success with it in the past. I mean, he's been a big collegiate golfer and professional tour player. It's really hard to like change some of these guys' mind that have actually been successful. I mean, Wolf's had some good runs of golf. It's just, I think it's more the mental aspect at the end of the day. I think golf, it's just so hard mentally. You have to be perfect and precise with everything, and you could be the most athletic guy in the world, but if your head's not in it, you're just a goner. And that's kind of like he's got the talent, but the head is just not there for him.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating because I really thought he could have been a. I mean, maybe we shouldn't even say anything about him at this point because he's what 21, 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't write him off either way. So maybe we
As long as
should
he keeps his tour card.
What's that?
As long as he keeps his tour card, sure.
That's all that matters. All right, that's 6K range. I like to say I'm the 6K whisperer. I've done really well in the 6K range.
Okay.
It is a barren wasteland this week in the 6K range, in my opinion. The two names I like the most are also the two highest owned 6K guys. Ryan Armour at 6,800, but he's getting close to 11%. I don't think I've ever taken a 6K guy that's had an ownership percentage over 10%. So 11% doesn't sound high, but on a 6K guy, that's a lot of risk right there. And Smotherman, at 6,800 as well, he's getting close to 8% on my card, owned. That's a lot. I'm actually surprised Smotherman isn't into the low 7K a little bit there. I got some sneaky cheap plays here, but any thoughts on any of these guys in the 6K range?
All right, so I'm looking through the 6K range for the most part. Someone that's been playing really well, Peter Malnati. He's been pretty good. He's usually a good first round guy. Ball striking, good with the approach game, pretty accurate off the tee. He's a guy that's been been playing pretty well for the most part. A lot of guys have talked about Sam Ryder before. He's been kind of a guy that you could throw in there. That's like a cheap guy that just been playing good. I mean, he got a third recently. I don't know. Let me see what I was at. It's probably at the Zurich, probably. Yeah, it was at the Zurich, which doesn't really mean much. But, I mean, he's a guy that's popped up on like boards making cuts. You're really looking for cut makers at the end of the day.
Yeah,
your 6K guys, they make the cuts. Yeah. You're already free rolling at this point. So as long as they make the cuts, I wouldn't be surprised like a Zach Johnson playing well this week. A guy that doesn't get talked about a lot, but short hitter, accurate, precise. He's one of those grinders. He might find my way onto the card a little bit.
Actually, I like that Zach Johnson play there. That's kind of smart. The guy, so one guy burned me last week because I was really high on him last week, and that's Tyler Duncan. And I think you're actually going to get a discount on him this week because him missing the cut last week on an easy field. He was 12th at RBC, 25th at Valspar, 28th at Punta Cana. I mean, the guy's played for a 6,800, 6,900 guy, pretty decent golf.
Mm-hmm.
But Cameron Piercy, he's a guy that I'm looking at, 6,300. That's my 6K whisperer pick of the week. And I think, don't quote me on this, I have to double check my notes. I think I'm 3 out of 4 so far since I decided to have something called the 6K Whisper. 3 out of 4 making the cut. That's all. When I'm picking someone 6,300 or below, I want is a cut. Top 40 is a win in that situation. Cameron Piercy, that's my 6K Whisper. I don't even know why. I just looked at the cards, and that was the best I could come up with. It really was in that really, really cheap. I wanted to play Bill Haas, but
it's kind of tough. That's kind of a tough sell for me for Bill Haas. But Cameron Piercy, though,
I heard his name somewhere. Not on anything that I pay attention to, but I heard his name somewhere, and I looked it up. I looked it up. I'm like, no,
you're good. No, but Percy's really good with the approach play, and we talked about before. You need a guy that's going to play really well on the approach. His putter blows, his short game blows, but his approach game is there. I mean, his ball striking's inside of the top 25 in the last 36 rounds played. in the field. So that's really good. So if you can find a guy like that in that 6K range, I mean, that's some good value. And I think his percentage is probably pretty low as well. So we'll see what we're at there. Where is he at?
Which one? Who?
Cameron Percy. What's his
6,300.
6,300. So his I just want to see what his percentage owned was anyway.
Sorry.
Oh, like oh yeah, he's really extremely low. So I mean,
I mean, most guys in the 6K range, especially the bottom half, are normally 3, 2, 1%, and that's why it's so frustrating that the two guys I like the most, Ryan Armour and Austin Smotherman, they're 10.7 and 7.1. Literally, let me look at this here. Duncan's at 6.8, Svensson 5.5. So you've only got 4 guys that are above 3.5% in the 6K range. I mean, and that's pretty typical. Problem is, the two I like the most are like insanely priced or insanely, projected there. So it kind of makes it tough. I think this week, literally, so I've got all 5 10K guys written down for the show. I got 5 guys from the 9K range, 5 guys from the 8K range down. I literally have 4. I got over 20 names written down in the 7K range. I guarantee I'll do 21 lineups. I guarantee 12 of those at least have 4 to 5 7K guys in each lineup. I really think fantasy-wise, not betting-wise, fantasy-wise, you could take Rory, you could take Leishman, you could take a Rory and a KC, you could take a Fitzpatrick and a Henley. You can load up on 2. I don't want to go full stars and scrubs. That really requires some 6K guys, but I think you could go. Is there a phrase balanced stars and scrubs? Is that a legit thing to say?
I think it sounds fine to me. I mean, you want to have a good amount of guys that are good amount of scrubs. I mean, it's a good balance, if you will. You're looking for balance.
Yeah, these 7K guys. I mean, Martin Laird, he's not a scrub. You know what I mean? Lahiri or Wu or Adam Long, they're not scrubs per se. It's not like you're playing Bill Haas, in your lineup to get 2 good guys. I think the person that cracks the code of which 8 or 9 guys to use in the 7K range, that's gonna be where the winning or the profit comes from this week. Not the winning lineup, but the profitable lineups.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to hit some of these guys that I think what I've seen the last few weeks for the most part with guys winning lineups is that those 10K guys that aren't used that much, I think those are guys that tend to do really well. When Jordan Spieth won his event, he was really under-owned in that 10K range. If you can hit some of those guys that are in those higher salaries that aren't really owned as much, there's such a huge leverage. And those guys are up there for a reason. So they are capable of scoring. It just kind of stinks because Corey Connors is so high owned and he's such a bad putter that I do like Corey Connors a lot, but he just didn't find a way for me to get there. So that was kind of tough.
I mean, I just built as you were talking there, a quick thing. I love Adam Long this week. I think we both are, fans of Matt Martin Laird. I put Kuchar and I put Neesmith. 4 guys in the 7K range. Okay. That leaves you with 10K left. Yeah. So I could go Fitzpatrick Leishman here. If I do Rory, it still leaves me 8,500, which I could put Young, If you want to go, you could literally Fitzpatrick and Leishman, or whoever else you want there. You want to go Abraham Answer, that leaves you enough still to get Russell Henley, Gary Woodland in there, Paul Casey.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility this week with that lineup right there.
I think that's some flexibility there. It's not the typical 2 10K guys, 2 6K guys, and then bounce out in the middle. Right. That's like a cheaper version of, or not a cheaper, a more expensive stars and scrubs style. I think it's a strong way to go this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go with this for the most part. If I'm looking down the board over here, let me see where we're at here. So I'm looking at the 7K range. I think Kuchar's definitely a really good spot here. I mean, his ownership does look a little higher than I thought it was going to be. The Seamus Power kind of guy who's had a really good season. Hasn't really got much talked about for the most part. So that could be a good guy as well. And those are kind of guys where we could start with right there, I feel like. And then honestly, Paul Casey might be the guy I'd be like, oh my gosh, how did I forget Paul Casey? I could see that this week.
I mean, I was playing Paul Casey every single week until he got hurt.
Yeah.
Start withdrawing. But you know what? Yeah, just he's in the field. As long as, it's in DC, so it's going to be an early lineup block. you know, I really wish DraftKings would give you the same thing that football gives you. If they have a late tee time on Thursday and they withdraw, you can sell that before they tee off.
Yeah.
They don't do that, unfortunately. But I don't know. I think Paul Casey will make my final player pool. I'm just not sure the usage rate that I'll give him because of that fear.
I just keep thinking to myself, like when I was talking about all these guys and everything, like, and now that I'm like looking at it, like I'm probably gonna play Paul Casey. Like I originally did not think that at all. And then when I'm looking at it and like the leverage spot with him, people are gonna go with Sergio, and that's fine. They're both pretty much the same kind of player, but you're gonna get a guy that can get birdies, hit the fairways, drive it real well, pretty much do everything well besides putt. But you know what? I think people are going to be late on him this week. He's going to have a good week this week, and then you're going to see next week, whenever the next week he plays, the ownership's going to be like double. So I want to buy early on him. So I've avoided him like the last like 3 weeks with all his injury issues. Now we've waited around a little bit. I think everything's fine now. I'm gonna guess and say
I'm not trying to counter you, but the one thing it is his back, right?
Yes.
What's the weather going to be like this weekend?
Supposedly it's going to be cold, I heard. That's
cold and bad. I have a bad back. So cold and bad back, they don't really mix. So, you might so that's another one of the, like I know I've been talking on the morning show. I know all about Joel Embiid's injury because I broke my orbital enforcement. I know what he's going through with that. Paul Casey, I had a keg dropped on my back. You know what I mean? I know what a bad back's like. It's not going to make me stop playing him, but it's going to make me be very cautious with him, not to overexpose myself.
I think that's smart. I think you've got to play him some, but don't like overload on him. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So, I mean, we kind of heard some of your things. And again, you're going to release later tonight and tomorrow morning all your betting picks here.
Mm-hmm.
Put your website back up here, risingfirebets.com, at Chris Ebom on Twitter. I've only got 5 bets so far this week. Okay. I haven't figured out where I'm going to go with my top 20s or top 40s or whatever. We're going to ask you. I mean, we already heard, or I already heard your interview earlier that you did. If you're going to give me one top 20 and one top 40 play, and if I was only going to make 2 bets, anywhere from the top 20, they don't have to be top 20, top 40. It could be 2 top 20s. It could be 2 top 40s. 2 smash plays in those ranges. What bets are you going to make based off of the odds and the player?
Okay. Matt Kuchar plus 110 for top 40. I absolutely love it. It's probably my highest rated play based on units besides my matchup play. So I tend to usually bet those like the highest amount because I find really good leverage points there. That's just my betting style. So I really like Matt Kuchar plus 110. I think he's going to contend anyway. I think it's going to be a rocking chair bet. I think you're just going to be able to coast with that one. And I don't think he can get burned with like a top 20 if he does kind of fall off just in case. For top 20, let me see here. So I really like Mark Leishman here, plus 220, but I'm going to be a little more conservative. I'm going to take Matt Fitzpatrick plus 125. He's just a guy that fits well at these kind of tough courses, the weather. He drives it pretty far. Great putter. Good with very good with the long irons. He's very good with the sand saves. He kind of just checks off all the boxes. So for plus 125, Matt Fitzpatrick would be my smash for top 20, and then Matt Kuchar plus 110 for top 40. Those are my big ones right there.
All right. So my 5 outright bets again for everybody that's just tuned in. So I got 3 guys at 28-1: Max Homa, Cam Young, Keegan Bradley. I got Matt Neesmith 100-1, and I got Martin Laird at 130-1. If one of those was to hit, which one would hit?
Go through it one more time. Let me hear it one more time.
Keegan, Young, and Homa all at 28-1. Neesmith 100-1, and Laird 130-1.
I would say Laird.
Yeah, the longest odds guy of the group.
Yeah, I say Laird. I think Laird's got a good.
Very happy with that. That would be
for a long shot. I think you can get a really good sweat this weekend with him. I think he's going to be around for a while and maybe some good hedge opportunities if he's actually in the hunt on Sunday.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with you. All right, this is Fairway to Heaven right here on DSM Media. Make sure you're hitting the follow, share, retweet button. Make sure you're on the YouTube page. You hit that subscribe button. We're inching closer to 600 subscribers, which that means we'll just start talking about 700 subscribers after that. But keep hitting that subscribe button and thumbs up button on every show. This is my man, Chris Yuxuzian, risingfirebets.com, at Chris Ebom. I am Phil Stifle at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. I'll be right back tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., recapping the Phillies game, talking Sixers, and you got the Sixers coming back against the Heat, Chris?
I think we got a shot game. I think we got a shot game too. I think that's kind of a wake up call. There's been times that Doc, we got kicked around a little bit in that game 6. They showed a little something, but they did have Embiid. So I'm hoping to really. We need to see Maxey to really step up. They need to cut him loose. That's when the Sixers play well. It's when they cut him loose and they let him do his thing. So I think Doc needs to get back to that game too.
I like it. I'll give all my full thoughts tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. on Trending in the AM. Right here on DSM Media. Everybody have a great night. Be well. Let's turn the tables on last week's bad week and get back to making money, cashing tickets, and cashing bets there, guys. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week.